If you're looking to relocate to a new area where you can raise a family, you can retire at, or you can invest in with short-term rentals, Airbnbs, VRBOs, things like that, then you've come to the right place, because in this video, I'm talking all about Canandaigua, New York. It is the best town. Actually, according to niche.com, it's the second best town to live in Ontario County. But let's get into why. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually go into niche.com, and through all of the categories on niche.com, I'm gonna be telling you why I actually love Canandaigua. I was born and raised in Canandaigua, so of course I'm a little bit biased toward Canandaigua. I love this town, but I'm not the only one that loves this town. A lot of people love Canandaigua for many different reasons, and we'll get into exactly why. So let's hop into niche.com real quick. Going over into my iPad. So here we are. So this is niche.com's 2025 best places to live in Ontario County. So Canandaigua is part of Ontario County. It's kind of right smack dab in the middle of Ontario County. You get to the south end of Canandaigua Lake, and now you're encroaching on Yates County in certain parts, but all of Canandaigua is going to be in Ontario County. So you can see here, number one best places to live in Ontario County is Geneva. That's actually kind of, that's crazy to me. Over Canandaigua, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe because it has a larger downtown area, maybe a little bit, a few more restaurants, and a little bit more walkability, I think, potentially for that. But you can see here, A- overall niche grade, B- schools, right? Public schools in Canandaigua are A-. So, you know, you're talking about a slightly larger population in Geneva, hence it is a little bit bigger, versus the Canandaigua's population of 10,542, give or take a few, of course. But overall niche grade of a A- for Canandaigua. Again, I was born and raised in Canandaigua, lived here my whole life, never lived outside of Canandaigua, never went outside of Canandaigua schools. My family, I still have siblings in Canandaigua schools, so very familiar with Canandaigua. Here on this map, let's scroll down and see if we can get into, this map here. So we'll click for full screen. So this is gonna be your city limits here in this box. This is your city limits. It goes basically right to North Road here. Brickyard Road over here. This is the Canandaigua Airport. And so this is gonna be a lot of your private flights, right? So for example, the Wegmans top offices have flights that go out of here, or Constellation Brands has flights that come out of here, as well as they do pilot lessons and things like that. So if you're trying to get your aviation license, you can go there and you can get your practice hours in there. Additionally, this is where Mercy Flight is going to fly out of. So Mercy Flight is, I'm not sure if that's a nationwide thing or it's a local thing, but it's a medical rescue helicopter. And so if there is a critical need, somebody needs to get to Strong Memorial very fast, they're flying out of here and they're going to pick them up somewhere in town or whatever, and they're gonna Mercy Flight them to Strong Memorial Hospital up in Rochester. So that's certainly really nice to have right there, because it comes in handy. There's lots of times where Mercy Flight has to fly people out. So it's really nice having that so nearby. Your hospital, so Thompson Health, is going to be right over here somewhere without zooming in. Let's see. So you got Bristol Street. Yeah, so it's right here. This is FF Thompson Hospital. And they're going to have a majority of everything that you're going to need in a robust emergency department. They're going to have pharmacists in there. They're going to have all sorts of stuff, right? They do have like pediatric. They have a great labor and delivery center. Both of my kids were delivered here at FF Thompson. The only thing they don't have is like a NICU or a PICU. So heaven forbid your newborn needs some additional assistance. They're probably going to have to go to Strong Memorial, or they'll go to Rochester General Hospital to get that care. My son, born in December, had to go up to the Rochester General Hospital NICU just for some breathing issues and everything, and they cared for him there. But the level of care here at FF Thompson was outstanding. We couldn't have asked for better care. Bedside manners, doctors were great, the OBs were great. So we really love FF Thompson. I've had a surgery there as well. So they do all sorts of things, and they take really good care of their patients, which is really nice to have that right in town, right in the city, actually. So you can see here, these are more of your city streets. A lot of this, especially over in this area, is going to be a historic district. So if you buy a house in like this area here in the historic district, there's a good chance you might be jumping through hoops to get things done when trying to alter your house, right? So if you want to paint your house a certain color, you might have to go through the historic district to be able to get that approved. And then you can only have certain paint colors like on top of that. So there's all sorts of different things, right? If you need a new railing or whatever, you kind of got to get it approved by the city and by the historic district. So that's fairly common in a lot of other areas throughout the United States, not just here in Canandaigua. But yeah, this is kind of the area that's going to be happening in, is right here. Pretty much from Granger Street up to Ontario Street. That's going to be your primary historic district. But it's super charming. You're looking at old houses, old Victorians, houses that, you know, maybe 6 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms or something like that. Some of them are close to $1 million. Some of them might be $200,000. But you're talking anything from old World War II style ranches from, you know, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, kind of, they threw them up for people returning home from war. Or you're talking about the old 1800s or early 1900s Victorians that are super charming, super high ceilings, fireplaces in every room, that kind of deal, right? So really, really unique area here. As you get down this way, so this is going to be North Main Street here. And this comes right from 332 in Farmington. So Farmington is right down here. If you follow 332, that's going to be your main route down to I-90 here, which is the thruway. And I-90 will take you to Rochester, out to Buffalo, and then this way, if you go east, that's going to be out to Syracuse and Albany. So that's going to be your main expressway. But it's from Canandaigua, from the city, it's literally one street. It's Main Street to 332, and it turns into I-90. Basically, you can't miss it if you're just following 332. So super nice there. But then if you get down onto South Main Street, you got routes 5 and 20. 5 and 20 will take you out to Bloomfield if you go west, and then it'll take you out to Geneva if you go east. And then even beyond that, right? So that's a good expressway there as well. Very busy. This intersection here is very busy. This is like a 5-way basically stop, but the lights are pretty quick. The traffic flows easily. It's not bad at all. You're really not gonna have many traffic hangups here on Main Street, Canandaigua. It's 2 lanes on each side, going each way. So you've got, you know, lots of ways to get around traffic if traffic is blocked for whatever reason, or if they're doing construction on the roads and things like that. Main Street, Canandaigua is going to be a bunch of boutique shops, barber shops. There's a bridal shop there. There's some banks. There is a stage there that you can go and sometimes bands will set up, not very often, but sometimes like local bands will set up and they'll be playing at the stage. They do have a hot dog stand there. And then over on the other side, they have Central on Main, which is, they also have a stage set up, and you go and you can set up your table there. And basically any of the restaurants that are on Main Street, you can order and they'll deliver it to your table there at the Central on Main. And it's really nice because if there does happen to be a local band playing, you can sit outside in the warmer months and you can just have your meal delivered to you without having to disturb your activity. So disturb watching the band or, you know, whatever. So super nice. And I mean, you probably have 10 different restaurants you can order from that will deliver to the Central on Main. So it's super cool. Additionally, going back down this way, you have so South Main Street will run right into the city pier, and so the city pier obviously is right here. You have a bunch of boat docks, and then you have some cottages here as well, and we'll get into some footage of that. But really charming kind of area. Again, there's going to be maybe some ice cream here. There's going to be a hot dog and hamburger stand here. And then there's going to be a bunch of people fishing. People love to fish off the pier because it's not super deep, but there are still some good fish that come up in this like immediate area. But then, you know, along this side, you're going to have a bunch of boats as well launching. You got some restaurants over here, a sailboarding place. Kershaw Park, there's walking trails all throughout Kershaw Park, all the way down into over here. And this right here is where the Canandaigua Lady, it's like a ferry, launches. And the ferry boat will take you just around the lake, and you'll get to look at some of the lakeside real estate, which is really nice. And they do like a dinner cruise and things like that, right? So people will host networking events on the Canandaigua Lady, and so creates a really cool kind of atmosphere. But Kershaw Park, they do have a beach park here that you can go, and there's a small admittance fee. I think it's like $5 or something like that, but they got some bathrooms, changing like locker rooms, and then they got a beach that lifeguard on duty most days. They're also going to have a snack shack over here. But then again, just walking trails, running trails. So the lakeside here at Kershaw Park is going to be very nice if you like to spend time outdoors walking along the water side and stuff. And it's really nice. You do have Scoop's ice cream shop over here. And then in the plazas here, you've got Thompson, like orthopedic, you have a bank, and then you've got Murphy's Law. It's a bar and pub over here. So a lot of really cool stuff going on. You have Other Half Brewing, which is down here along the lake shore somewhere. So a lot of really cool stuff. On this side, one of the first neighborhoods or communities on Westlake Road is going to be the Cottages, I believe it's called, or Yacht Club Cove, I think. And so all of these, they're gonna have water access. You can rent or have a dock for your boat. And most of these are gonna be condos or townhomes, and you're gonna have direct water access. So it's super cool if you can get one of these, and they're really nice townhomes and condos. A lot of them selling for $400,000, $500,000, and they're really nice. So those are great options if you're looking for something that maybe has a small HOA that will cover the exterior perimeter, maintenance and things like that, roofing or siding. But you know, you kind of want your own space still. These are great options. So, and then down here on 5 and 20, so like right here is going to be Wegmans. Wegmans is going to be your premier grocery shopping in Canandaigua. And one thing that's really nice about Canandaigua too is that all of your shopping is going to be right here. So this is going to be Walmart and Lowe's Home Improvement. These are going to be boat shops, Dunkin' Donuts. There's going to be Rite Aid or Walgreens over here. So, and then there's Harbor Freight. There's a movie theater in here. So everything that you're going to need is going to be right in this like little area right on the city limits here. You're going to have TJ Maxx and Joann Fabrics and all sorts of different stores. So you really don't need to leave Canandaigua in order to get anything that you need. Whether you shop for groceries at Walmart, which is right here, or shop for groceries at Wegmans, it's right here, or Aldi, which is going to be right here as well. You're not going to run out of options. So I think that's really cool. That's one of the nicest things about Canandaigua, aside from the aesthetic beauty and the charm of the village in town. So if we get back out of here, we'll go through some of the stats here. Of course, overall niche grade is going to be an A minus. Oops. Public schools, A minus. The schools are great. You're going to have a graduating class of around 300 people. So it's not going to be a huge school, but it's not a small school. So generally speaking, and just because this is an issue with some of the surrounding areas, you're not going to have issues filling up sport teams or academic clubs or anything like that. They will fill up. There's going to be plenty of students who will want to sign up for the football team or baseball team or the art club or whatever. And so you're never going to not have a program available simply because of a lack of participation. Just about everything that you're going to want in a school is going to be here, and it's going to be available because you have the perfect amount of students, right? So nightlife's a weird one because it's going to be mostly bars and pubs, but you do have some restaurants with outdoor seating and things like that. So it's not bad. Most of your stuff is going to close around like 11 or midnight, which, you know what, I'm cool with that because, like, hey, let's keep the city safe. Nothing good happens after midnight, so like let's do it. Diversity, Canandaigua is not going to be the most diverse area. It's just not. It's going to be primarily Caucasian. It's, the biggest diversity that we have here really is diversity of thought, which I think is great. We should have a diversity of thought, and that, I kind of correlate that most to politics. Canandaigua in of itself is, it votes red, it votes conservative for the most part, but it's a really good mix of conservative and liberal, kind of like a purple, but a majority of the time it's going to be a conservative type town. But nobody's going out there flying certain flags and like yelling at you and doing whatever. Like it's a respectful town. It's pretty much anywhere in the Finger Lakes is going to be more of the live and let live type atmosphere, which creates a lot of respect within the community. And, personally, I really like that. So A minus for good for families. I think it's amazing for families. You have Roseland Water Park, which gives kiddos a place to go in the summertime. You've got the lake life for boating and tubing and, wakeboarding, wake skating, things like that. You've got the lake for fishing. You've got hiking trails all over the place. Great proximity to Bristol Mountain, which is 15 minutes away. Like, you've got just about everything that you're going to ever need for a kid, in Canandaigua. What I will say is it's not great for like the teenage years. Besides having like the lake and Bristol Mountain. Otherwise, Roseland Water Park is going to be more beneficial to like the younger demographic. So like preteen type kids, but teenagers will go to Bristol Mountain. There is a skate park in Canandaigua if they like to skateboard or rollerblade or scooter or whatever. Bristol Mountain is a ski resort. But then in the surrounding areas, there's a bunch of hiking trails and things like that if your kids like to hike. And otherwise, of course, you've got sports, baseball, football, lacrosse, you name it, we have it, hockey. But keep in mind, it's not, so if you're moving from somewhere down south, you might have these sports year round. We don't have that here. So sports like football or baseball or lacrosse aren't going to be year round. Hockey, because it's played indoors, you do have that kind of year round. You have travel leagues, things like that. Lacrosse, there are like indoor travel leagues and stuff. Same with soccer. So there's plenty of opportunity to practice in the off season, but you're not going to have leagues in the off season like you would down south in these bigger markets, right? With better weather. So just keep that in mind. If you're, the other thing is in regard to sports, if you've got a student who is like a top tier athlete who really has goals and aspirations of playing in the big leagues, and it's actually like really realistic for them to play in the big leagues, Canandaigua has bred some professional athletes in multiple disciplines, but it's not going to be the best school for that, right? It's a smaller school. Football team, they go to the class championships, but aside from the few professional athletes that we've bred, it's not the rule, right? It's an exception to the rule. So you know, you might want to consider going to a private school, something like Aquinas or McQuaid, if they do have real aspirations of playing in the big leagues. But you can live in Canandaigua and go to those private schools, of course. So that's something to consider if your kid is a true athlete that can really make it to the big leagues. Jobs, you know, Canandaigua is going to be big on like tourism, kind of like restaurant and professional services, attorneys, real estate agents. Entrepreneurship is a great one here. There's a lot of new school entrepreneurs, right? So we're talking about like influencers and things like that. There's quite a bit of that. But then also farming and agriculture life, like it's amazing for that. We have so much farmland around here that if you're in a job that does something like that, then it's an amazing spot for you. The other thing is we have close proximity to Rochester. So Rochester is only 20 to 30 minutes away, depending on where in Canandaigua you live. So if your work is in Rochester, you're not out of bounds being in Canandaigua. It's a short drive, and in the wintertime, I get asked this a lot. In the wintertime, the drive is not that much worse. The highways I-90 and 490 and 390 and 5 and 20, they get plowed pretty regularly. Usually how it happens in the winter is if we're expecting a storm, the plows are out like the day or two before that. They're salting and they're prepping. They're being proactive about the storm coming so that when the storm comes, that snow melts pretty quickly and the plows are out and they're able to actually manage it so that your commute is not going to be that difficult, right? So I think that's exceptional. Commute is A. I mean, like I said in the beginning of this video, you pretty much have one drive straight to the thruway in order to get up to Rochester, Buffalo, or Syracuse. So that's super easy. And if you're talking about going to the airport, so if you have a job that travels a lot and you're traveling by plane, or if you're just going on vacation, whatever the case may be, the Frederick Douglass Rochester International Airport is going to be only about 25 minutes away. Technically it's in Chili, but it's right in Rochester. You take I-90 all the way up and or 390 all the way up, and you go right up to the airport. So it's super easy, or you can get off Brooks Ave and go to the airport that way. So super easy, quick drive. There's not really tons of traffic, which is one of the best things about this area is traffic is always a minimal. You know, no matter where you're trying to go, you're talking probably 20 minutes or less. So I think that's pretty significant. I've had clients moving from other areas in Texas or Florida or whatever, and these are huge markets, and they're talking 40 minutes to go 2 miles, which is insane. So we've got it really good here. Housing is going to be very competitive in Canandaigua. There is very few homes that come on the market, and so the ones that do, they typically have a lot of competition on them. So the hardest part about living in Canandaigua is actually finding a place to live in Canandaigua. You know, especially if you're under 400,000. If you're under 400,000, it's going to be difficult not only finding a place, but actually competing to win that house. People are generally coming with a little bit of money, a little bit more cash, and they're putting in very strong competitive offers. So if you're looking to purchase a home in Canandaigua, I'd really say like genuinely lean on the expertise of your real estate agent, whether that's me or if that's somebody else. I hope that it would be me. You're watching this video, I'm giving you the information, the value, hopefully. So I hope you would call me, but if it's me or somebody else, lean on their expertise because they might have that real local insight on what's going on and be able to talk to the listing agent and see how many offers they're getting, see what is important to the seller. Sometimes it's not just purchase price. Sometimes it really is terms that make the difference. So if you can position yourself in a way to win by leaning on your real estate agent, then you'll have a better shot at winning a house here that you actually truly love. So you know, that's pretty significant as well. Crime and safety is going to be a C+. I don't know why that is. There hardly is any crime in Canandaigua, hardly any at all. You know, recently over the winter, there was like a guy who shot into a crowd. He got into an altercation with some guys at a bar, and as he was kind of like walking or running away, he turned around and shot a few shots into a crowd, and he struck a woman in the chest. She's okay, making a full recovery. But that's again, an exception to the rule. I'm not sure what this C plus is all about, but Canandaigua is a very safe town. I would feel fully confident like allowing my wife and kids to walk around the streets of Canandaigua and like by themselves without me. Like no worries at all, right? So we don't have a crazy homeless population in Canandaigua. There's not people begging on the streets. Like there's not people tripping on drugs all over the streets. Like it's a clean and safe community. And so this C plus kind of confuses me. I'd put it at the worst like an A minus, if I'm being honest with you. So not really, I wish it had like an explanation of why they're giving it a C plus, but it doesn't. I'm going based off what they're giving me. So many young professionals and retirees live in Canandaigua. Residents tend to lean conservative, like I mentioned, and Canandaigua public schools are highly rated. Again, population of 10,542. So not a huge community, but also not a small community either. So it's super nice. A majority of people rent here, it says. I don't know why. Rent is not going to be $1,093 on average, I don't think. The median, sure, maybe, but I think a majority of your rent prices are going to be upwards of $1,300 or $1,400 a month, up to the $2,000 a month price range. Median home value, I think this is rising pretty rapidly. I think we're closer to 300 in Canandaigua. So again, I'm not sure what these metrics are going off of, but real time what we're seeing is closer to 300,000, especially in Canandaigua. But there are beautiful homes. Now, if we look here, best suburbs for young professionals in New York, 185 of 389. Most diverse suburbs in New York, 188 of 389. And then best suburbs to live in New York, 217 of 389. So here we go, a little explanation of the crime and safety, right? Assaults, you got 276.7, 282.7 is the national average. No murders. Rape, 143. National average is 40, so I guess we're pretty significant in rape. I don't hear much about that. I stay pretty attuned to the news. I don't hear much about that, so that's kind of odd. Robbery, 19.1. This is all per 100,000 residents. National average is 135. Property crimes, this is probably you're going to have the most here. So, of course, 1727.3 for property crime per 100,000 residents. Burglary is 229. And motor vehicle theft is 105. And this is kind of spiked. The Kia boys are kind of coming from Rochester out this way, and they're stealing Kias and Hyundais. So if you have a Kia in Hyundai, hide your vehicle. That's what I'm going to say. Most of the time, your Fords, your Chevys, your Jeeps, like things like that aren't going to be getting stolen. So just food for thought there. You can see here what kind of degrees are held in Canandaigua, what the main population consists of here. A majority of 65 plus. It's kind of odd. We do have an older community, of course, retirees, right? It's a great lakeside community, so that just generally attracts that type of community. But overall, it makes it a safe place. And it also, most of the time, generally speaking, again, is going to bring a little bit more money to the community. So that's a good thing. Median household income is $63,000. I actually think it's higher than that. Knowing a lot of people I know I'd say a majority of the people in the town, at least a lot of the bigger names, they're making significantly more than this household income. So I would say double this, right? $120,000, right? Each person in the house is making 60 grand or so. So I would say about 120, 130 would be more along what I'm seeing. If you live in Canandaigua, in the town or the city of Canandaigua, you're going to be going to Canandaigua public schools. So that's going to be Canandaigua Academy, Canandaigua Middle School, Canandaigua Primary and Elementary School. There are certain areas you could have a Canandaigua mailing address, but actually go to maybe Bloomfield or Naples or Honeoye or Marcus Whitman potentially. But a majority of the time, if you have a Canandaigua mailing address, you're going to be going to Canandaigua schools, and you'll pay taxes on Canandaigua schools. So places like Canandaigua, Geneseo, Chili, East Rochester. I would not say East Rochester. That's a odd one, but and most people are ranking Canandaigua at least average, very good, or excellent. So I think that's a good sign, you know. That being said, guys, I mean, my favorite thing about Canandaigua really is the lake life. You do get a great lakeside community. You can go out on the boats, and it really breeds an atmosphere of being outdoors, which I love. I love my kids being outdoors. I love being outdoors. I love getting sun on my skin. And, you know, just being outdoors in general, whether that's on the lake or lakeside, or just going for a run outdoors. Like, there are great opportunities to be outdoors. Now, in certain seasons, you're going to have to embrace the suck with a lot of it, right? The winter, the rain and wind, you're going to have to embrace that. But, you know, a lot of the time, you're going to be able to get outdoors. That in mind, that is, again, one of my favorite things. But then outside of that, it's the community. And I hear it from a lot of you guys who are relocating is like, the first thing you notice about living in Canandaigua is the people are so friendly here. People are so willing to help a neighbor out, help you get the type of services that you need. There's Facebook pages for just about anything and everything that you're ever going to need. People are willing to lend a helping hand, which I think is really cool. People care about their neighbors for the most part. And it's something, you know, unfortunately in today's society, you don't see a whole lot. And so to have that here locally is just amazing. And, you know, you really can't beat it. If you have a community that stands with each other, then you need to hold on to that. So that being said, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video just like this one on all things living, eating, sleeping, breathing, playing, and working in the Rochester and Finger Lakes region. Whether you're moving in 9 days, 90 days, I'd love to be the team of choice to help you relocate here to the Rochester and Finger Lakes region. So hit up that information on screen. I'm the guy that answers text, emails, and phone calls. Don't hesitate to reach out. Until the next video, guys, see ya. Bye.